Welcome to Feminine Roadmap Podcast. I'm your host, Gina-r-Farrar. Each week, I bring you an inspiring conversation to help you navigate the challenges and changes of midlife so that you can not only survive, but thrive in your second half. Hello, Feminine Roadmappers. It is Gina here, and today my guest is going to be talking to us about her journey of living with a narcissistic mother, how that defined her, and how just 3 years ago she was able to cut that cord, and what you can do to begin that journey yourself. Mariette Jansen is a life coach, a psychotherapist, and the author of From Victim to Victor, Narcissism Survival Guide. Mariette, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Oh, I'm so pleased. I'm excited to be here, Gina. Yeah.
Well, thank you. You know, before we hit record, I was asking you a few questions, and I would really love for you to share with the audience, what is your story? What led you to write this book about From Victim to Victor? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. When I started the book, I have to say it launched only a few weeks ago, but already it seems to hit a nerve because the sales and the downloads are going through the roof. So that makes me feel really good, because I think the message I'm sharing is not just about me. It resonates with a lot of other people. And the book is a reflection on my life, really. It's not autobiographic. Certain parts are autobiographic, but it's the realization that I had only a few years ago how much I was affected by my narcissistic mother, and how important it has been for me to cut the cords. I'm a free bird now. For the last 3 years, I'm a free bird. And before that, there was always that shadow of her in the background. And when I talk about a narcissist, I'm saying they get under your skin. They have tentacles. They creep under your skin and they absorb you and they get into your mind and you lose yourself. So really what I have been doing is discovering myself. And that's not just the last 3 years. I did a lot of preparation work. You know, I had a lot of therapy, a lot of thinking. Also, my training as a therapist and my training as a coach helps you to think about yourself and discover things about yourself. But it really came to a big hoorah when I could cut my mother out of my life. Yeah.
What led up to the breakup, if you will?
Yeah. So I never had a good relationship with my mother. I always felt that something was wrong, but I didn't know what. And she always led me to believe it was me. I made a mistake. I did something wrong. And I thought, oh yeah, what did I do wrong? What can I do different? So I was continuously finding new ways of making that relationship. And then I moved away. I'm Dutch. My accent is from the Netherlands and I live in the UK now. So the geographical distance between us made my life easier because there was less contact. But I decided I will be a good daughter. I call her every 2 weeks. That's, I think, my definition of a good daughter. But the relationship, of course, did never improve. I kept it going. My sister died. I was the executor of her will in the Netherlands, together with somebody else there. Not my parents, not my mother, who was livid about it. So I got a barrage of abuse around all the difficult and the wrong decisions I had made. That was one really big sequence of nastiness, really. But then what came to light is my brother, who is mentally disabled, lived for a while with my parents, but later in life he lived by himself. And what led me to the break was the discovery that actually they had financially abused him, making him pay for their utilities, and he didn't live there, making him pay for other things, making him donate money to them, which, you know, they were not entitled to that. It was not their money. And that was the last thing. I couldn't be in touch with my brother anyway, because my mother was not having that. The moment I was in touch with him, she wouldn't play the first fiddle, and she would be so annoyed with that she would take it out on him. It's not fair. So to protect him, I wasn't in touch with him. But when I discovered that, I thought, I can't even talk to you anymore. This is vile.
Now, you were saying that your sister died, your brother died, and your father died. So you and your mother are the only ones left in your family.
Yeah. And my father died a year ago, I think on the 13th of July. So, nearly a year ago. And I was waiting for an emotional reaction. I thought, what's going to happen? An avalanche of emotions, of sadness or not, and really nothing happened. Nothing happened. And I think I've been through a grieving process for years, that when it actually happened, I didn't feel affected. But what I did feel, I started to feel free. And I realized that my whole life I had been protecting my sister, my brother, and my father. Even though he turned very narcissistic as well, he was still not my mother. And I still subconsciously kept an eye out for him. And there was no need for that anymore. So in August, I started to write. Ben. Yeah.
So you just wrote this book starting in August of 2019?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. How was the journey of writing about this for you? Because narcissism is a word that's kind of popular right now. And I do want to hear your definition of narcissism and how this book kind of flowed out of you.
The book is written from the point of view of a victim. So I had to admit that I was a victim. A victim is powerless. Why are you powerless? If you don't have the knowledge or the skills, then you're trapped in a situation. And I was trapped in a lack of knowledge, in the loss of myself. So then when I started to write, it was as if everything that I knew and everything that I'd gone through already just came out. It was very easy to write it. And it was lovely because I did a bit of research and could easily fit it in. But it was primarily everything from the point of view of a victim. And that process made me emotional, even though I thought I've now gone through everything, in years before. It was quite heavy duty, but in a very freeing way. It was fine. It was a positive experience, even though it could feel heavy. I think it was really letting go of possibly of an attachment to experiences from the past. So I put my head down, I went bang. And in March, I'd finished the writing. And then we went, in a roller coaster editing, proofreading, formatting process to be ready for the 21st of June as the launch.
Give me your definition of narcissism. When you're talking about someone being a narcissist, what do you mean, Mariette?
They are toxic. They're manipulative. They don't value other people. They don't have emotions, so you can't connect with them. And you will have that feeling like, I'm running around for someone, but actually I'm not sure that I want to do what they want me to do, but I feel obliged. And I've got a little list with questions on a leaflet. It's only 10 questions, but it's like, if someone makes you feel uncomfortable, if someone is very critical, if someone is very cold, it's that sort of things. That is the feeling that a narcissist will evoke in you. And they have traits. They are important. They are top-notch all the time. They are entitled. So that entitlement means that you have to do things for them, but they don't have to do things for you. In the case of my mother, she never called me. I had to call her. That was just normal in her world. They're very manipulative, and they want attention, they want admiration, and they will do anything to get that. And sometimes, like a toddler, it can be negative attention, but as long as it's attention, then that makes them happy. You can't really have a discussion with them either, and that's because they're always right. They're just superhumans, and the moment you criticize them, you get it back. That's not the thing to do. And it's a bit like a joke, but if you want to know who is a narcissist, if someone is a real narcissist, you tell them they are a narcissist. God, I really think you are a narcissist. If they are not a narcissist, they will be very upset, because you don't want to be called someone like that. You don't want to be like that. And if you come across like that, that's quite difficult. And then that person you said you are a narcissist might never want to see you again. If you say to someone, I think you're a narcissist, and they shrug their shoulders and they laugh about it because they don't care, then they are a narcissist. But then it's you who might not want to be in touch with them. Mm-hmm. So there's that whole cluster of behavior that identifies them. But again, coming back from my point of view, I think coming from the point of the person who experienced their behavior, if they make you feel uncomfortable, if they make you doubt yourself and run around and do things that actually you don't want to do, then watch out.
We talked a little bit before we hit record about enmeshment and that inability to see the lines between us and another person. Is that something that happens when you're in a relationship with someone who's narcissistic? Yes,
that's definitely what happens. Because, as I said earlier, they creep in your system. It's almost like they start to eat you away from the inside out. And you start to identify yourself with the narcissist. Because anything you say is stupid. Anything you think is ridiculous. Yeah, and you think, oh, that must be it. And then you're this barrel that's being filled with the ideas of the narcissist.
What are the steps that someone can begin to take if they begin to identify that they're in a relationship with someone close, family? That's got to be the hardest, I think, because we do feel a certain natural inclination to loyalty. Most people, like, it's my family, I have no choice, right? So what advice do you have from your experience?
And also on that, it's my family, I have no choice. If you make a choice, then you get the rest of the family over you and saying, what are you doing? So you don't deal with one person, you deal with a whole entity. If you establish that you have a narcissist within your family, the thing to do is to remove yourself emotionally. If you can't remove yourself physically, then start to train yourself in being detached. It's like close your heart. Don't let them in. Also, don't give them any ammunition to manipulate you. So don't tell anything about things that are important to you, because they will use that to manipulate you or to put you down or to play games. So what I did with my parents in the end, when I said every 2 weeks I'll make a phone call, I never talked about anything that was too close to my heart. And I had 2 topics on the back burner always. That was the weather or Wimbledon. So tennis. If it went a certain direction, I thought, no, this is going the wrong way. I don't want to talk about this. I don't want to get involved at all. I would say, oh, you wouldn't believe it. The sun was shining here 5 minutes ago, and now it's raining like mad. And then my mother would say, oh, the weather is much better here, because it's always better there. Or it was the topic of tennis, which is, immediately talking about a tennis match or something of non-relevance. Yeah. So that as well, it's almost like create a whole scenario of how to keep yourself safe. So disengage your emotions. Don't give any personal information, and find safe things to do and safe things to distract them from you.
That's very challenging, isn't it? Because I would think with parents that the tendency would be to want to share your life with them, because it's in our makeup to want to get our parents' approval, to have their support, to have their encouragement. And how was that for you, really recognizing that that was something you were never going to get? What was that for you?
In the launch speech for my book, I said the biggest challenge in this whole process was that I had to give up hope. Hope that there would ever be anything between her and me. And when the hope was gone, I could move away. But I've been hoping for so long. And that's the cleverness of the narcissist as well. They push you away, and then they come out with something where you think, oh, it's not so bad. Oh, actually, they've changed. They're much nicer now. Oh, something is happening. Oh, we are developing something in the right direction, until the next time it's all swept off the table and under the carpet.
It's like they're pulling emotional strings, right? It's like they know you so well that they can hit you where it hurts the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
What are the kinds of things that a narcissist might say? It's hard. I think it's difficult for some people to classify someone in their life as a narcissist. Maybe if you could talk like a narcissist, maybe it will begin to light little lights in their mind like, hey, I hear that all the time. What would that look like?
A narcissist would say, God, have you been to the hairdresser? Well, it was about time because you looked awful for years. Or you would come out with something like, oh, this was really difficult. And they say, well, don't be so ridiculous. Well, you're stupid anyway. How can it not be difficult? So those continuous put downs, they would say, well, I expect you to do this for me. Don't you love me? If you love me, this is what you do. They would say, my mother, she wouldn't say anything, but she would always make me wait. If I came back from a holiday and my parents were going to pick me up from somewhere, I always had to wait about 15 minutes to half an hour. If we were going out, we always had to wait for her, because then she could make a grand entree and look at me. And guys, don't think that any of you are important. I'm important. Everything evolves around me. And there was this mom, was a friend of mine then in the Netherlands, and I didn't understand it then, but now I understand it, who went out with her small children and said, it's so funny, I never take drinks with me for them because I don't drink that much myself. And again, in retrospect, I think it was just everything happened from their perspective and not from the perspective of somebody else. Double standards all the time. What you're not allowed to do, they can do.
How does someone identify it when they're so used to it? Because doesn't that put a lot of people on the people-pleasing train?
Yeah, of course.
Seeking the approval of another person, and that filters out into all of their relationships, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like you get so tuned in to the behavior. You think it is normal. I thought for the first 18 years of my life that I was in the happiest family in the universe. I was being told that, and I didn't know anything else. When I left home, I started to recognize other situations. But so when you're in the middle of it and when you're used to those situations, you can't see it for what it is. And then often, as happened to me, you then start a romantic relationship with someone who also is a narcissist, because it's the familiarity. And as your nickname is Dummy, which is not very nice, I think now, but then was actually quite sweet. And being told off and put down all the time was nothing different from what I was used to. Yeah.
Wow. So what I hear you saying is, if you're used to being told negative things about yourself, you might be with a narcissist.
You might be. If you love someone, why would you put them down all the time? Why would you make them feel miserable? In a balanced, loving relationship, you wouldn't do that. But if you're in a relationship because you want, and this is called a narcissistic supply, the attention, the power, and the admiration, that's then created in the way the relationship plays out. I'm going to put you down. So I'm bigger than you are. You give me attention. I upset you. You give me attention because of that. I'm the important person here. I'm the one who's in control.
You use the word power.
Yeah.
And that struck me because it really is about power. Not that everyone comes across that way, but the ultimate goal is for a narcissist to stay in the power position, right?
Yeah, it is. And if you are in a romantic relationship with a narcissist and you discover that and you want to move away, they are absolutely livid. They're not having that, because that means that's a rejection of them. And what then the next step is, they try to hoover you back in all sorts of ways. All of a sudden they become nice and sweet again and attentive, and you then think, oh God, it's actually, what was I thinking? You know, I have to give us another chance, and it can't be so nice. And we had a nice weekend, and there is hope. There's the word again, the hope. The narcissist keeps the hope going.
I've heard about a term called love bombing.
Yeah, that's lovely.
Let's talk about
it's
love bombing.
It's too good to be true. It's too good to be true. And that's exactly what it is. You know, love bombing is when a narcissist is on the hunt. They are attracted to empathic people, empaths. You know, they're softer, they're sort of easy to get their claws in. So when the narcissist is on the hunt and think, I've got someone here, they try to sort of get you in by absolutely doing incredible things. So I live here in London. They would have a plane lined up to take you to Paris for dinner and then back. And you would say, oh my God, it's amazing. You would stay in exclusive resorts. They would buy you presents the whole time. They would be on you. They would be so absolutely already absorbing you, but you wouldn't see it like that. You would think this is so romantic. They also want to, that won't take too long, because they can't keep that going for too long, because it's against their natural actions. So very soon they will come with the wedding proposal or the let's live together thing. So one lady I spoke to was being proposed within 6 days. And I know, and within 3 months, it was all sort of organized and done. And after 25 years, she came out as a cripple, as an absolute mental wreck, but just in time to still sort of get herself back.
It's very subtle sometimes, isn't it? I mean, I don't know that they all come out of the gate calling you dummy right off the bat. It's like they chip away at your self-confidence and your self-esteem, right?
Yeah, that's it. And it is very subtle. And it's very difficult to recognize it because it is so subtle. So it's a build-up of little things. Yeah, and first of all, you say, well, that's not very nice to say. And they say, come on, don't react over the top. Yeah, so they will make a remark, and you will say, well, that's not very nice. And they will say, well, you're oversensitive, aren't you? And then you think, yeah, maybe I am. And then the next remark comes, and the next remark. So you get desensitized by them. And then you are thinking things are normal. But at the same time, they are blaming you for everything that happens. And they're telling you all the time that you are doing it wrong. Which then means that you are getting in that frame of mind. Like, oh my God, I am doing it wrong. It must be me. I'm the one who is making the mistakes here. So they manipulate you into taking the responsibility for what is going on, where you are not responsible. It's them.
They manipulate you into taking responsibility for things not being okay.
Yeah.
It's interesting. One of the things that I've noticed is there's certain personality connections, meaning that these people find each other, right? The narcissist finds the person that will put up with them, and the person that will put up with them is somewhat comfortable with the narcissist. Like there's something in each of them that they're attracted to. Like some people who are in abusive relationships, they just keep repeating that pattern. They go from one abusive person to another. And I think it's the same thing with narcissists, people who are in relationship with narcissists. It's what they know.
It's what they know. It's what they experience as normal. So they're not questioning things that are not normal. And that's because they're not used to anything else.
How does one begin to break that? Because when you know something so well that you don't even have to think about it, right? The tape is playing in your mind. It's what you know how to deal with that personality. You're not necessarily happy, but it's, quote, not that bad, right? How do you shift away from that unhealthy, comfortable spot and begin to shift toward healthiness?
You will reach that point where you say, this really is not okay. I cannot deal with this anymore. Then you try to talk to friends. Your narcissist is very good at not only invading you, but also invading your family and friend space and poisoning them. So one of the things that they will do, then they go out, they're the life and soul of the party. They're lovely people. Everybody thinks, oh my God, they're fantastic. You're so lucky to have a partner like that. And then you start to talk to your friends and they think, well, you are very ungrateful. I mean, I wish that I had a partner like that. Or they say something like, I'm really concerned about Mariette lately. Oh, really? Yeah, she's behaving a bit weird. I was thinking of making an appointment with a psychiatrist, but don't tell her, but keep me in the loop. If you notice something about her, let me know. So it sounds as if it comes from a place of love and care, and it's all about control. So as the victim of the narcissist, you think something is not right. You want to check it out. The feedback you're getting is, no, you as a victim, you got it wrong. And you need to reach a really bad place to then say, oh man, this is, whatever it is, it's not good. I have to go. I have to break this cycle. Yeah. By the way, what I have done in my book is experience as helpful. There are 50 traits of a narcissist that you can just go through, and you can then sort of discover that maybe your narcissist doesn't have all the 50 traits, but quite some that you might experience as normal, or this is how it is. And then there's a little exercise that makes you realize how much that impacts your happiness and your thoughts and how you feel, and also how you behave. And that can be also a good light bulb moment, thinking, wait a moment, that's not okay. No matter what anyone says, but this is how I experience it, and it's not okay.
There's a lot of bravery involved in that process, isn't there?
There's a price to pay, a big price. Yeah. And for instance, I didn't realize, I've learned a lot about narcissism in the last 5 years. I went to the funeral of my brother. I became from the UK, and I started to talk to an uncle and some other people I hadn't seen for years, and people turned their back on me. And I thought, what is going on here? Only to realize later that, the talk about me from my mother's side was all about negative and what an absolute nightmare I was, and how cold, and I didn't pay any attention. I didn't do anything for them. I was just... I was a curse from hell. And people then believe the narcissist. Why wouldn't they? Yeah, because you listen to people when you think, why would people lie? If someone tells you a story, your default position is to believe them. If it's a narcissist and you know that, the default position is to not believe them. So if I see clients here and they talk about their narcissistic person in their life and they say, oh yeah, but they said this or that or that. And I said, did they do it? Have you got evidence? And they're like, no. So, okay, then maybe better not believe it. Believe it when you see it. And if you don't see it, it's not true. You can't trust them.
I think that's probably the hardest part, I would imagine. I have not personally necessarily gone through this, but I do have people in my life, of course, that I have walked journeys with. And the one thing, Mariette, that I find interesting is the definition of truth. I have one friend in mind where the way that her husband would weave things, she literally couldn't figure out what was true. Like she literally lost sight of what the truth was and was doubting herself and doubting the truth and doubting. And of course, when you're not in it, it's much easier to identify, right? But that was the journey that we took together, was re-identifying the truth, meaning getting away from all the smoke and mirrors that was keeping her confused. It's almost like a noxious gas. Like it totally confused her for what was real and what was not.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of the game of the narcissist. Confusing you, making you doubt your reality, and thinking that you are the one who is going mad. There's a word for that, gaslighting. And there's that movie in, I think it was 1944, and it was the husband who drove his wife mad by having the gas light on the table. And when she went to the kitchen, he changed the gas light. And she came back and said, oh, the light is so much brighter. And he said, no, dear, I don't know what you're talking about. And then she went off again to get the next cup of coffee, something like that. And then he turned it down and she came back and said, I'm absolutely sure it's darker now. And he would continuously contradict what she was saying. And as a result, she started to doubt her own reality. Yeah.
And that's why it's so difficult to identify, isn't it? Because a person who has lived with and has been impacted by a narcissist has lost that center, right? They've lost that ability to really understand what is real and what's not, what's true and what's not, because all of us make mistakes. So it would be easy to say, you know what, I could have been nicer. I could have done this better, which may or may not be true. But Mariette, what's the difference between normal human failure and the house of mirrors that a narcissist builds to make you think that it's always you?
That's where it is. In normal relationships, you are both open to see, where maybe one of you made a mistake. Maybe things could have been different or done differently, or, maybe you admit that you did something wrong. Oh, that was not the best. I could have done that better. But it's not the constant focus on winning, where the narcissist is the winner and the victim is the loser, always, regardless of the situation.
So basically, if your, quote, truth is that you never can do anything right, it's always your fault. And if you had just said it different, done it different, whatever, that there's a really good chance that the person you're with is a narcissist.
Could be. Yeah.
Are there you said there were 50 qualities that you have listed in your book.
Yeah.
Can you list a handful of qualities that are pretty common?
Yeah. They go back into 5 categories. And so the category is I'm entitled. Yeah. So it's like everybody needs to do things for me. I don't have to do anything back. So they receive a really nice present. They will never send a thank you note, because it's just normal that they're being treated like that. Conversations They're the center of the universe, their universe, but they also want to be the center of your universe. So they will change every situation evolving around them. So if you are happy because you have a new car, they are going to look for a better car. Or they put your car down and say, oh, my car is so much better than yours.
Can I ask you a question on that one real quick?
Yeah.
Could it also be if, let's say, Mariette, I'm talking to you and you're the narcissist and I'm just saying we're in a relationship and I say, oh, I'm so frustrated. This situation is really bothering me. And your response would be, well, you don't have to tell me about that. I've been through it all before. Is that a similar kind of quality to the other direction?
Yeah.
Or they can even be everything's worse in their life than yours?
Anything that get them that extra attention. They are always better or worse, but their experience is always stronger than yours.
So the entitlement you said, and then the center of the universe. What are the other?
The manipulation. One way of manipulating is triangulation, where I say to you, Gina, what this friend of yours said about you, well, I think you should know, but she really thought it was ridiculous what you were doing there. Because then you would be upset with the other friends, and I would drive a wedge into the relationship, and I might then take your friends away. Because if you have something good and I can't have that, then I definitely don't want you to have it.
Because it takes away from them.
Yeah. So that's the manipulation. The fourth category is they are always right. So in a discussion with someone, and you think, gee, this person can never admit that maybe they got it wrong, that maybe it's different, that maybe even there is something of truth in what I am saying. No. It's always them who are ending up with the victory. And that's a real indication, an easy indication for a narcissist as well. And you can try that out. You can just sort of throw it up, have a question that evokes a response and where you can have a discussion and you think, okay, first time, you do it another time, you do it a third time, then you might get a real great indication what sort of type this person is. So that's they're always right. And then the last category is they have no emotional awareness. They lack total empathy. So if you're upset, they don't care. If you want to talk about your feelings, they've got no idea. I know my mother was looking at me like, what are you getting on about? The danger of that is, some people might not have that empathy. They might not have that emotional awareness, but it makes them cruel because they don't understand what they are doing to other people. They don't understand the pain.
I have a question about narcissists. Can they sometimes come off as the victim to gain control? Is it always from a, quote, power position, or can it come from the appearance of weakness?
I was going to say a victim is so powerful, yeah? A victim can play the role and manipulate everybody in doing things for them and being the poor person. And again, they get a narcissistic supply. They get the attention, and basically they are holding the strings in their hands.
What does it look like to set boundaries with a narcissist, or do you have to just cut off the relationship?
If you can cut off. Because the relationship you have with a narcissist is a very one-sided relationship, and it will mean you can't be your true authentic self with them, because they will grab you on anything that they perceive as a weakness, anything that they can harm you with, they will use. And maybe indirectly using other people, but there's no balance. You will not get from the narcissist most likely what you want. Emotional intimacy isn't there. Honesty isn't there. Equality and balance isn't there. So it's a very interesting relationship. If you can work with that and if you can live with that, then it's fine. But you need to know that in order to keep yourself safe and sane.
It seems to me, Mariette, that some people seem to like being in those relationships. It's comfortable for them. They know what to expect. You know, there's an unhealthy symbiosis, it seems. But then there's other people who just have lived with it for so long, like my friend, that they don't know where the truth lies anymore. And they get confused about truth. So when we're talking about these 5 areas, you said they are entitled, they're the center of the universe, they're manipulative, they're always right, and they have no emotional awareness. Let's talk about that empathy piece. What does that look like? Because it's easy for people to be like, oh, they're just, they're just a right-brained person, or they're just type A. That's why they don't feel the way they feel. So when you say they don't have empathy, can you flesh that out just a little bit, what you mean by that?
Yeah. The lack of empathy apparently is also traced in the brain, where the brain of narcissists are smaller than the brain of normal people. They lack that bit in the prefrontal cortex that homes that emotional awareness and the empathy. When people have empathy, they understand, or they try to understand, how somebody else will feel. They step into someone's shoes and they walk with them. That is where you can create a closeness. That is when you think, God, this person understands me. And understanding is not just about words. It's more like a feeling about being with someone. The lack of empathy translates in the lack of warmth. So, for instance, my father had an operation on his heart, a bypass, I think it's called. And I called and said, oh, hi, is the patient home? And she said, well, no, he isn't. I said, okay, what time is he coming home? She said, well, he's discharged. He's walking back from hospital because he needs exercise and he can get it in straight away. Boing. So no empathy, no idea of when you have been in hospital for a few days, when you've had an operation, when you are in your 70s, when you have to walk about 3 miles from the hospital with a little bag in your hands. Most people who have empathy would say, that's difficult for someone. Like, I can help, I can pick up, let me do that. For her, it didn't even come up. It's just sort of, it's no point, is it? He needs to come home, he needs to have exercise, he might as well start. And it's nice and easy for me. That's one way of how lack of empathy presents itself.
That's almost ridiculous.
I know. I left to go for university. I had a little bag in my hands with a pen, a plate, a cup, a towel, and some clothes for the week. And I went on the train and I went to college and then I went to the room where I was. And a week or 2 weeks later, my parents came to bring me some personal stuff. It's almost like the same situation, but you think you're leaving home. Well, my eldest has left home, and it's like a big maternal, make sure you have this and that, and we bring you away, we install you. I got him little pots with plastic plants. He said, Mom, that's the only decoration in the whole flat, but it's just, that is what empathic and actually normal people do. But people who lack the empathy don't get it. Another example that I found it shocking, but at that time I didn't think anything of it. We had a dog. Dog was about 14 years old, an old lady. And one Friday morning she didn't wake up. So that was a lovely way for her to go. She wasn't ill. She wasn't... And that same afternoon, at around 2:00, the new puppy arrives. after having a dog for 14 years, and within hours, it's been replaced. There is no emotion involved, is it? There's no emotional attachment, because any person who has their pet for 14 years has developed a emotional relationship. You feel for them. You have feelings for your cat. I have feelings for my dog. If she goes, then I will be desperate, and it will last, I don't know, a few weeks, a few months, whatever it is, but not 3 hours.
Isn't that interesting? So it really extends to every area of their life. So you could actually be a student of how they behave with everyone and everything. Interesting.
Yeah.
The gaslighting, can we go back to that? Is that just doing things to kind of throw off someone's mental equilibrium? Is that what that is?
And it's really trying to make them go mad. I was talking about that woman who was love bombed and married, within 3 months of meeting. And she ended up, she said it was Christmas, and I was like in a fetus position on the bed, just shaking, because this had been building up over a few years almost. And she said, I was totally going mad. She then left. I think she left with an ambulance. And then her children were not allowed to see her or her children were saying, you left us. That is the message that came back from the narcissist. Not like it didn't work out or she had to go or whatever it was. And it's that continuous message like, you got it wrong, you got it wrong, you got it wrong. An example is you go out shopping and the gaslighter, my mother, bought a blue blouse, and it was an endless discussion about the blouse, and she comes home with the blouse. And then a few weeks later I said, God, how is your blue blouse? And she said, blue blouse? I don't have a blue blouse. I don't like blue. And I said, well, we bought it in the shop. She said, God, your memory is crap. And I then think, am I really that stupid? So the normal person is prepared to question their self and question their perception. And the gaslighter is continuously fueling, because once you are in it, you can only go down. So what I say to people when they think they're being gaslighted, or when they think they're being with a narcissist who is undermining their perception of their reality, make notes with what you do, with what you experience. So when shopping, bought a blue blouse. Yeah, and then you go back through your notes and you think like, okay, they bought a blue blouse. It was not me who got it wrong.
So possibly journaling just menial things and maybe using that.
Facts. Yeah. So not even, now that was a nasty remark. So my mother would say, ha, do you like that nail polish? So, and then I say, that's not nice to say. And she said, well, what did I say wrong? I just asked you a question. Yeah. So factual, you can't nail them down on it. But in the whole tone of voice, the whole communication is an absolute put down.
Now, wouldn't you say that sometimes everyone slips into that meanness or that criticalness? So what's the difference?
Yeah. We all present sometimes some narcissistic traits. But a narcissist is structural all the time. It's like they're campaigning, yeah, and they don't step out. They also don't feel guilty, or they don't feel a bit ashamed about what they did. If I say something and I think, I shouldn't have said that, that wasn't very nice actually, then that is a normal, healthy reaction. A narcissist will never have that feeling, and they will keep on going and going and going. So where for normal people, it's an incident to throw things out. And then saying that, some people are really manipulative, and, quite a lot of the time. So I would say they have narcissistic tendencies. Are they a narcissist? Do they lack empathy? Is it always about them? Or is there something more? Is it just one part of their whole presence and presentation?
Almost like when a person gets out of balance for whatever reason, they're stressed, they aren't getting enough sleep, they're not taking care of themselves, maybe they tip in a more negative way. I know that happens for me. There's certain things that if I go long enough without, I can become very snarky, right?
Mm.
And when I recognize my snarkiness, then I have to go, wait a minute, why am I being that way, right? And it's usually something I'm not doing right in my own life, whether it's sleep or food, or maybe I'm not thinking good, happy thoughts. Maybe I'm indulging myself with really crummy thinking, right? And I think that's the thing that I kind of wanted to bring up, and you covered it, is we can all have a tendency in some area, but the difference is when a narcissist, a full-time narcissist, is involved, someone has to be broken down for the narcissist to be okay.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And they will not question themselves. They will not consider that they do something that is unpleasant or wrong.
So there's no self-check.
No.
Okay.
No.
How do you break it off with a narcissist? I know earlier you said if you can't physically do it, you basically have to hang up hope, which is so hard for the human spirit not to have hope. We're designed for hope.
That's why it's usually such a long process.
Mm.
Yeah, we don't want to give up hope. We started something, or we are in a situation that we want to make work. We want to make it positive. There's also the challenge, like the rescuer who will say, oh, I will make this relationship work, and I will make this person happier, and that sort of challenge. And therefore, it's a process that can take years before the clarity is there that what I want is actually never going to happen. But then what needs to come in as well, and actually I deserve something better. And that I deserve something better then comes down to I'm actually a valuable person. Even though I've been broken down by someone, but I am a person with value. I am a person that deserves respect and love and positive experiences in life. In order to get there, you have to sort of take the noise off the line. So I talk about noise of the line, and if you have a clear connection with who you are, then all the input from other people, you can look at it and you can just throw it out if it is noise, if it's not serving your self-respect, the value for yourself. And when you're with a narcissist, you don't have a lot of that. You might have started with it. There's that other thing. When someone said to me, I used to be so confident, and then I was in this relationship with the narcissist and all my confidence went. And we explored it. And I said to her, I don't think you were that confident. I think you behaved confident because your environment up till then was always easygoing. So it wasn't challenged at all. Now it's challenged and it crumbles because there's no foundation for your confidence. You haven't learned what your confidence involves, how you build it, how you hold on to that. And then it's, if that has not been done, it's easy to be swept away. If you, however, then start to learn to build yourself up, including your confidence, then you get that foundation. And then you can push the narcissists out of your life.
Well, Mariette, we've been talking for a solid hour, and I know, fast, right?
Oh, it flies, honestly. Yeah.
So let's give the audience 3 key things that you believe they need to hear after listening to all of this information about a narcissist. If someone's in a relationship with a narcissist, all of this will be hard to hear. Maybe there's people recovering. What 3 things do you feel are very important for them to hear and to anchor into after this hour-long conversation?
If you think you are in a relationship with a narcissist or in a situation with a narcissist, keep remembering it's not you who is at fault. Someone who wants you to take the blame for everything has it wrong. It's not you. You are not to blame. The other thing I would really like everyone to consider and to work on, be your own BFF, best friend forever. Don't allow anything to happen to you that you would not allow to happen to a good friend. So really start taking care of yourself. In a healthy relationship, people are not there to break you. People are there to build you. Then that makes it possible for you to tap into your self-love, your self-respect, and your authenticity. Like what I created after my father died, really, reading the book, I got rid of everything and could become that free bird that is just me. So I'm not carrying energy from anybody else. It's just me. And if I can do that, anybody else can do that. It's not an easy journey, but it's not about easy. It's just about get your head down and go through it.
Wouldn't you agree, Mariette, that it's in the doing of the hard thing that we find the treasure?
Yeah. Yeah. And we are so often held back with fear, the what if, and I don't know if I can do that, and da-da-da. If you start walking on the path, there's only one direction. And you might have a little slip on the side, but you know what? You will always go back and continue.
Well, Mariette, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story, your wisdom, and such practical information to help bring people to healthiness and freedom. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me, Gina. I've got red cheeks from from all the talking and all the engagement. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Today I've been speaking with Mariette Jansen. She is a life coach, a psychotherapist, and the author of From Victim to Victor, Narcissism Survival Guide. If you head over to www.feminineroadmap.com/episode 179, you will find links to Mariette's website and her book. And if you know anyone who needs it, share that link. Also, while you're there, please leave your name and email address. I have a gift for you, and I send out periodic encouraging emails. Friends, I hope that you are in a place where you are open to this information if you find yourself in a situation with a narcissist. Mariette has said that it's not an easy journey, but if you just take the first step, it's going to take you in the right direction. You really are worthy of love. You really are worthy of acceptance. You are worth a healthy relationship. So if you or someone you know are trapped in a relationship with a narcissist, please get the help that you need. Please begin the journey to heal yourself and your mind. Use this book as a resource. Share it with a friend. Find the community that you need to get yourself back on track, because you deserve that. We all deserve the dignity of true love and respect. So thank you so much for joining us today. Again, we encourage you to share this with your friends. Sit down, have a cup of something wonderful, and listen to it together. And we look forward to sharing more and more useful, encouraging, and powerful information with you. Take care, my friends. Bye-bye.